Hi. This week, it's see it as better than you can imagine. And if you can imagine, imagine the best. So this week was a lot to do with seeing oneself and seeing the contrast. And rather than seeing that which you are not, see who you are. And also, don't start looking for trouble when there's no trouble there. So it was kind of bittersweet, but it was a beautiful week. It started off with someone who came and saw me, and there was a sense of desiring abundance, or feeling why isn't the abundance flowing? And interestingly enough, the interests and the life lived by this being was so abundant in the creativity that itself is an abundance, but I wasn't looking at that. And what really was underneath it was that mothering aspect, where her mother was seen as narcissistic, not really being present to her. But when she really looked at it, what it was a contrast where her element of mothering is so complete, so full, to the point that she could drown in it and actually lose herself. So this seeing of it and seeing of herself and understanding the drowning of it, because we can lose ourselves in it. But if we know we love, we find ourselves in it. But we need to see it in that direction. And it's like she came into this life to have that contrast so she could see her own self-love to the extent that it is, and then find the perspective of how much she loves life and how much is showing up and how much is coming through that was already present. Which led on to someone who was having a problem with the feet and in near that ankle place, which is related to indifference. And you know, hate is not the opposite of love, indifference is. But this showed another element of indifference where was looking for, which is the habit, to look at what is there, what needs to shift, what do I need to see so I can change it. And in fact, the whole process was really to look at, do not be indifferent to the fact that nothing needs to change. You need to be indifferent to looking for an issue or a problem or a karmic pattern, because it's basically saying, be indifferent to that. Just do the unfolding. There's no need to change. There's just that process of unfolding. Such a different way of looking at it. It was really bittersweet this week, which went to someone who is making such breakthroughs. It's exciting to be part of it, because the capacity to stand in the world that has such amazing contrasts. There's bright light, but there's also deep darkness. And the capacity of this being in the ability to stand in deep darkness. A lot of people can only do that range of grey to lighter grey. But this capacity is such a bright heart love, but the depth of standing in what the world can also be in the place of. And over the years, that's not been an easy balancing act. And it's come to the point of seeing that the capacity to see, to be self, and to see it's the world. It's normal is the wrong word, but it is this capacity to see it. It exists. And the capacity of beings who are able to hold that space, to be in place of seeing what can be the best moving forward with the expression of who they are, is a very powerful being and very important at this stage of what's going on, to have people who can hold that space and not be completely taken down by it. And how powerful it is to have somebody who can be in that place and move forward with what is next best. And to see that was a confirmation of all the years of dealing with that. So it's interesting how I've seen a few times now that those who, before entering into this dimension, the more relaxed they are, the calmer they are, the depth of that silence, that space, that deep okayness. When coming into this world and being birthed into it, born into it, something gets triggered. It can, not always, but what can get triggered is, oh my God, that's scary. I can't be that relaxed. If I'm that relaxed, what's going to happen to me? So this overthinking and this ability to never feel relaxed and feeling I must be anxious to counteract that inner core that is that scarily peaceful and silent and at peace. It flips. And this was seen in a young boy a few sessions ago, like a few weeks ago, and I kind of didn't share it at the time. And I've heard feedback since that he's actually saying, Mum, I love being in the world. I mean, how good is that? You know, this life is, it's better. I can imagine it at its best, and I love being here. So good. But as the decades go by, if we've been living in that way of being, it's such a record. It becomes a work to say to it, I'm okay. The interesting thing is, whatever is going on, and this showed up in bucket loads this weekend, which is the mind cannot work it out. And especially where we are now, because we're in a place now where we have direct insights, direct downloads, if you want to call it, that are the mind can't work out. It arrives. And a lot of that is happening. And another being that I saw this weekend had been trying to work it out in mind. And the spirit literally wasn't communicating anymore. It kind of went, I can't do this anymore, because really who I am has no input, because it goes to mind, and the mind was going round and round in circles, and aspects in her body were going round and round in circles as a spinning aspect of this process of mind. So recognizing the stuckness of that and realizing that it comes through. It's a bit like songwriters who say, I didn't write it, it came to me. And it seems we're in a process at the moment, if you're open to it, and it's possible for all of us, to let it come to us. It comes to you. And the brain can't work it out. Those songwriters can't work out with the mind how that happened, because they get it came through them. And some of the best comes through us. And then it's just a joy to ride that comes through, and to be a participant in what shows itself and the play of it. So it becomes play. To actually be able to move on, regardless of where we're at, to see that the best is yet to come, and whether you feel it or not, to start placing yourself in that aspect that knows, regardless, the best is ahead of us. And on a worldview, it may not be in our lifetime, but we know that's where, in truth, where it's finding its completion. Richard Rudd shared something, and I really loved the way he said it. It's like the whole aspect is like a Shakespearean play, and we see all these dynamics and all these issues going on all over the place. But at the end, like Midsummer's Night Dream, it finds its happy ending. Everything wakes up, clarity arrives, and things fall into place. And there are so many mythical stories that have that theme, a cosmic theme. And to have that larger view is very peaceful. So another being came, and again, like the young boy I saw a few weeks ago, when he was young, and I can kind of relate to this myself in my own life actually, some beings when they're young, they kind of stay in this okayness for a very long time, and sometimes they stay in it so long that they feel weird in comparison to other people, because your peers as you get older have all this stuff and issues, and somehow this okayness feels unidentified because it hasn't identified yet. And we come here to see who we are. So to go through life and feel not identified becomes a pressure at some level to try and work it out. But if we stayed with the original theme of the okayness, then that pressure doesn't arrive. And what showed up was that pressure arrived at around age 11, and then at 16 physical symptoms started to appear, and then it showed up at 42, and then it showed up at 46, and in looking at those patterns, that peace could come back again. And through the session it was beautiful, because at around the 46-year theme, and they're interesting years, the 40s. I mean, the 40s is quite often where the desire to be with someone else, or to have an affair, or to look for something more in ourselves, and if it's not yet found, to project it outside and want to be seen or to experience that, starts to appear strongly. And what was beautiful, because this was a couple, and what was beautiful is that at 46, this humdrumness had arrived. And the humdrumness felt as lost as it did originally in not recognizing self. And then you go, well, what's life about? I go to work, I raise a family, whatever it is. And, the wife can also be in her place where, God, this is so humdrum. Where's the knight in shining armor, inverted commas? And it was rather beautiful because we had to swap the partners to work through. So we got to a certain stage and then we swapped partners and started working on the wife. And what was beautiful is that she projected herself to the other side of life and looked back at her life and saw the enormity of the love that they had for each other. And the sadness in that not being made conscious, because the humdrum tends to cover it. But to realise that the depth of that love and wanting that to be shared between the two of them, because that was the ground of their relationship. And then, with that being revealed, swapped again with the husband. And the husband in not seeing his own self and being in the humdrum, and what can happen in relationship is you end up feeling there's humdrum but no real gratitude. So that sense of being appreciated and her being loved and sharing that together in their life moving forward, and to live that consciously is what makes life worth living. And somehow the imagination of that can go away, but it certainly can be brought back. And to see the respect and the trust and the love and it being covered by humdrum, because we can't imagine. We know it's there, but we can't imagine how we can bring that back into our lives. And to some extent, the seeds of that is really what this weekend showed, that the treasures of the experience of being here, and which led to a session where, and we've covered this theme before, this sense of just being here is productive. And then those beings who are productive, who come into this world and then try to be productive, is quite a layering that's very difficult to undo sometimes. And it went to that moment of birth, and it was saying, am I here? Or am I born? Am I not born? Can I get excited yet? Or can't I? And it was a pause moment, because what was really relevant in this energetics is just being here is enough. It isn't like, I'm here, let's get productive. It was, let's just stop so that you can actually be here. So the cards that showed up were rather beautiful. It was treasure and breath. Treasure, your life has purpose and meaning that you can value and treasure, which is really the experience of seeing who you are, imagining the best. And instead of looking at the worst, if we can just look at the best of each other. I swear some people have a sieve and they put life into it and they sieve all the good out and only end up looking at the worst. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we put all of life into a sieve, sift out the worst and see the magic? It's time to acknowledge your dreams, listen to your heart, and discover what you really want, which ultimately is love. Be prepared to do what it takes to follow your heart, and you will find your treasure. Breath. Breathe deeply. Your breath draws life-giving oxygen into your body. When faced with difficulties, remember to breathe. Nothing is ever resolved when you hold your breath. There may be something you are opposed to. Don't fight it. Allow the flow. Now may be the time to breathe new life into what you have pushed aside. What a week.